This is a response to the meme Women Against Feminism, promoted by prominent internet personalities such as Jacqueline Glenn, The Amazing Atheist, Paul Elam, and Thunderfoot. Women Against Feminism strikes me as being the ungrateful child of feminism. Were it not for the hard work of feminists, women, be they feminist or not, would not have the rights and social status they have today. The irony of women standing on a platform provided for them by feminism and using it to spout anti-feminism seems to escape Women Against Feminism. A very great deal of the Women Against Feminism flashcards seem to attack a straw man of feminism, depicting it as female supremacism rather than the advocacy of women's rights and social status. A better hashtag here would be Women Who Don't Know What Feminism Is. Others come at it from a post-feminist point of view, arguing that feminism is no longer necessary in our modern society. This is flawed partly because despite the great strides that have been made toward gender equality, there are still ways in which men and women are not equal in society, notably the wage gap and women's reproductive rights, see the recent Hobby Lobby decision. And also because the fact that rights have been achieved for women does not mean those rights can't be taken away, as various conservative Christian groups are attempting to do, or that those rights are being respected in practice, not just on paper. Should anyone wish to argue that the wage gap is a myth, as I always say, find me a peer-reviewed study that agrees with you. Good luck with that. In his defence of Women Against Feminism, T.J. Kirk, The Amazing Atheist, has accused its critics of being, quote, feminists determined not to respect the viewpoints of their fellow women, end quote. I find this criticism transparently ridiculous. No viewpoint deserves automatic respect simply because it was made by someone of the same gender as you, or the same race, or the same sexual orientation, or the same anything. TJ seems to be criticising feminists for not advocating that all women should unquestioningly follow the same worldview. If they were advocating for such a thing, wouldn't that speak a lot more negatively of feminism? TJ also argues, quote, you are far more likely to face a violent end as a man than as a woman, end quote, as an argument against the issue of violence against women. This, of course, fails to take into account that violence against women, when raised as an issue, refers to violence experienced by women because they are women. In order to make a counter case for violence against men, he would need to cite examples and statistics of men experiencing violence specifically because they are men. According to a Bureau of Justice report published in 2003, 85% of victims of domestic violence are women. TJ also argues that violent rhetoric is never really justified in response to the satirical hashtag #KillAllMen. To see his hypocrisy, we need look no further than his video in which he defends his rape apologetics and threatening to rape women as being jokes or the result of being in heated arguments or as justified reaction to what he considers to be unpleasant bloggers. TJ claims he supports women's rights in countries such as China and India. I think it's important here to be clear what the word support means. Supporting something doesn't just mean making some offhand remark about how you think it's a good idea. In this instance, a good example of showing support for women's rights in other countries could be donating money to human rights organisations such as Amnesty International or the Global Fund for Women, or even making a video about the struggles of women in other parts of the world. TJ describes Western feminists as, quote, spoilt brats who need to recognise their own privilege before lecturing others about recognising theirs, end quote. Given as he's a white, cisgendered, heterosexual male who continually and shamelessly asks his subscribers to give him money, his hypocrisy here is staggering. TJ also argues, quote, shouldn't feminists want to empower all women to have a voice, not just women who agree with them, end quote. This is typical of TJ's lack of understanding of how free speech works. Free speech is not freedom from criticism, no matter how much he or anyone else would like it to be. Nowhere is anyone arguing that Women Against Feminism shouldn't be allowed to post photos of themselves holding cards promoting misinformation about feminism. They are simply responding to that misinformation with information. As stated earlier, it would speak far worse of feminism if it advocated that women should never voice disagreement with other women. When it comes to free speech and freedom from criticism, we can have one or the other, but not both. TJ argues, quote, "There's no question whatsoever that women have been historically oppressed. There's no contention there. The question is, are they still being oppressed today in Western democracies?" End quote. The fact that he associates with the website A Voice for Men, including having done an interview with them and expressed enthusiasm at giving a talk at their recent conference, means he should be aware that there is contention coming from them regarding the history of women's oppression. A Voice for Men have a timeline on their website that asserts women have had a privileged history dating back as far as the 12th century. It's also worthy of note that A Voice for Men have an article on their website claiming women in Iran, of all places, are privileged. TJ also claims that feminism as a whole is sex-negative, despite the fact he's directly responding to a sex-positive argument from a sex-positive feminist. Jacqueline Glenn's support of this meme and her dismissal of feminism in general seems to be rooted partly in an ignorance of the history of feminism, something she actually said she didn't give a damn about in her debate with Ryan Wiley, partly in a reluctance to risk losing her anti-feminist subscribers, and largely in that because she has a voice and is being listened to, why should she care about other women? One of the many things women against feminism fail to realise is that feminism has provided them with a voice. Anti-feminism, in extreme cases, seeks to take that voice away, and in its more moderate form simply shows indifference to whether or not women have a voice.